Lynn Kroger, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right, it's that season.
Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record.
I will recluse myself to the discussion of Douglas Academy.
Any others? All right. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. The mission statement of the Charter Schools Advisory Board is as follows. The Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. Next, we will take a motion on the minutes from the March meeting.
I'll make a motion that they're approved, but Ashley, did you get mine?
Okay, we've got a motion by Ms. Reeves to approve.
I
Do we have a
second
second? Second by Ms. Kakadelis. Any discussion or debate? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The March minutes are approved. And now we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Is there any changes, corrections, anything that needs to be made to the agenda? All right, then we'll entertain a motion for the approval of the April agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the April agenda.
All right, Bruce Friend makes a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Lynn Kroger. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All right, we will move on into application updates. We have 2 interviews left. And then we are done with this application cycle. So I'll ask Danielle Allen, if she will, to give us a short presentation, and then we'll move on into WAKE preparatory.
To Vice Chair Walker, Committee Co-Chair Kakadelis, and all respective members of the board, good morning. Today I'm going to provide to you your monthly update of the 2018 charter school application cycle. Specifically, I'll cover the 2018 application timeline and process. I'll outline the applicant groups appearing before you this month for full interviews. I will review the approvals and denials that this board has recommended thus far in the process, and I will leave time at the end for any questions or closing remarks. As you know, this board recommended a timeline and process which was approved by the state board in May of last year. For the sake of time, I won't go into detail here unless anyone has any specific questions about the 2018 timeline and process.
We don't have it down by now. We're in a mess.
This is
30 applications later. We got it now.
Today, there are no clarification interviews. You have 2 one-hour interviews with the groups that will be appearing before you. The Office of Charter Schools will provide a 2-minute overview. The applicant groups will line up at the podium, introduce themselves and their role on the board, and have a seat and wait for your questions. You'll then review and discuss each of the applications and then question the applicant. You'll deliberate, and then we'll have a vote on the recommendation of whether or not to forward them to Ready to Open. This brings us to the full interviews that will take place today. On March 18th, 3 schools were notified of their full interview opportunity at the April CSAB meeting. 1 applicant, CFA Pender, withdrew their application on April 2nd, Interview rubrics were released to applicants on April 1st. Any letters of absence or additional documentation submitted through the online portal has been uploaded to eBoard. Neither of the applicants appearing before you this month has submitted a special request. This month, you will interview Wake Preparatory Academy and Alamance Community School. So here, this chart summarizes the recommendations made by this board to date. 3 applications have been recommended and approved by the state board: Hobgood Charter Academy, Poquoson Innovative Charter School, and CFA Community Public Charter. Each of these were acceleration applicants, and Hobgood is both a private school conversion and an accelerated applicant. As I stated earlier, following today's meeting, your recommendations will be forwarded to the state board. A quick recap of the pending recommendations at this moment. 4 schools have been recommended for approval to open in Wake County. That's North Raleigh Charter Academy, Wendell Falls Charter Academy, Doral Academy, North Carolina, and CE Academy. 2 have been recommended for approval to open in Guilford County, Robert J. Brown Leadership Academy, and Revolution Academy. Finally, the board has recommended Elaine Riddick Charter for approval to open in Perquimans County, Mena Charter School of Lee County to open in Lee County, Achievement Charter Academy to open in Harnett County, and Wilmington School of the Arts to open in New Hanover County. Today, Wake Preparatory Academy and Alamance Community School will appear before you for interviews and recommendations. 6 schools withdrew from the process in this application round: Alpha Academy of Laurinburg, First Impressions Academy, Piedmont Career Academy, Kingdom Performing Arts Academy, Achieving Excellence Academy of Charlotte, and CFA Pender. And then finally, linked for you is a summary document that includes every school that submitted an application in this application round and where they stopped in the process. For your reference, in each of the past 3 years, this board has recommended between 12 and 15 schools for approval to move to ready to open. Are there any questions or closing remarks before we move on to the interviews?
I just want to say thank you for keeping us on track.
It's been my pleasure.
You've done a good job.
Okay. The applicant appearing before the board today is Wake Preparatory Academy. This interview will be led by Lyndalyn Kakadelis. They're proposing to locate in Wake County. The proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows: Year 1, K through 10, 1,605 students. Year 2, K through 11, 1,855 students. Year 3, K through 12, 2,105 students. Year 4, K through 12, 2,105 students. Year 5, K through 12, 2,105 students. We did not have an LEA impact statement submitted for this application. We do have a due diligence report. Pass-fail ratings are as follows: mission, purposes, and goals, 4 pass, 1 fail. Education plan, 4 pass, 1 fail. Governance and capacity, 4 pass, 1 fail. Operations, all pass. Finance, 4 pass, 1 fail. This applicant did not submit a special request. They are a repeat applicant. They submitted an application last year but withdrew prior to clarification. We discussed at last month's meeting that there are some similarities, but then also some very notable differences between the two applications, including the management partner. They are planning to partner with Charter One. There were no direct fees provided, and the application was deemed complete. That concludes my report for Wake Preparatory Academy.
Thank you. Okay, we would like to have the board introduce themselves.
One
Who's
thing,
here
real
representing?
quick, Ashley, I think Joe wants to call in.
Okay.
He's been sick, but I'm glad he's not here. Because he was running a pretty high fever yesterday, so he wants to call in though. Joe.
I don't know if this thing has been working well, but we're trying it.
Okay.
I think there is definitely something.
Good morning, State Charter Schools Advisory Board. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you again today. I'm Hilda Parley, founder, president of the board, retired and still wired educator of 32 and a half years.
Good morning. I'm Valeska Lapani Garrett, and I'm the co-founder and the vice president of the board.
Good morning. Hear me. My name is Mike Feetham. I am the secretary of the board.
I'm James Avery, the treasurer of the board. Bill Seaman, board member.
If you are the host, press star now. Otherwise,
Okay,
you will be joined into the conference.
we'll go ahead and, are there any particular questions on mission, purpose, or goals? I'm going to start there. My colleagues. Elevator music.
Just as long as we can.
Okay.
I mean, I thought the application was great. I thought it was a very good application, well-written application. I think the only question that I had was just the enrollment in the grade span, and that goes into mission, purpose, and goals. I thought the education plan looked great. Governance capacity looked great. Operations, I mean, it's not too often that you see an EMO that's going to lease buses, or a school affiliated with an EMO that's going to lease buses and provide the free and reduced lunch there. So that was a little different. And, finances, I mean, all the questions just kind of revolve for me around the enrollment numbers.
Okay. I had heard that from several other folks. Why don't we have you address that? How did you come up with your enrollment numbers and the grade span?
Thank you so much for that question. First of all, before I give the stats, I would like to preference that Charter One held 4 events in the community before we got into researching why our numbers make logical sense. Hope Lutheran Church, August 5th. Wake Forest Boys and Girls Club, August 6th, 2018, of course. The Spooktacular event, October 26th. Wake Forest Chamber Family Expo, March 23rd. And at those events, there were 357 families that we met face to face. We then researched the overcrowdedness of Wake County Public Schools. And these are the schools that we found. Wake Forest High School, 108 and 0.2%. And there are 19,173 students in trailers in Wake County. Heritage High School, 109.1%. Roseville High School, 100.2%. Heritage Elementary, 118.1%. Jones Dairy Elementary, 104.4%. Sanford Creek Elementary, 108.3%. Roseville Elementary, 114%. So we were wondering, these schools are crowded, then where are these students going? And also, as part of our research, we also saw that there were 20 capped schools, 15 elementary, 2 middle schools, and 3 high schools. And one of those high schools is Heritage, and Heritage High is in Wake Forest. Then we thought that, we concluded that the population growth also has something to do with contributing to why our numbers would make sense. In Wake County alone, single-family and multifamily homes, the new construction and building permits increased significantly. We looked back to 2016. Actually, that was the year that I started this project. In 2016, there were 11,050 building permits. In 2017, 11,335 permits for new construction. 2018, 12,664 building permits. So that lets us know that the area, Wake Forest Roseville area, is growing. It is very obvious if you ever were to visit either one of those cities. And also in your reading, there is the jurisdiction figures as well from Apex, and it shows Wake Forest and Roseville and other cities nearby, how their population is growing significantly. So where the population is growing significantly, there are children. There are children. And we also looked at the surrounding counties: Durham, Franklin, Granville, Johnston. Durham's population grew up by 14%. Franklin, 22%. Granville, 1%, of course, it's smaller. Johnston, up 15%. So the families are moving into the area, and this is not to take into account the families that already live here. And then we researched further to look at the wait lists in the area of charter schools around Wake and Franklin. East Wake Academy, and of course these numbers are based on at the time we contacted these. East Wake Academy, 1,038. Endeavor Charter, 1,376. Envision, 1,100. Explorers Charter, 1,123. Magellan, 500. Raleigh Charter High School, 160. Roseville Charter Academy, 1,556. Wake Forest Charter Academy, 1,471. And Cross Creek Charter, which is in Lewisburg, excuse me, 200. There again, we would, and that's over 8,500 students on the wait list, in really grades K-8 mostly. And we plan to go into articulation agreements with those K-8s. After that, we looked at our website. We wanted to track what was going on with our website. As of today, and this has been updated from April 1st, based on the information that you have before you, as of Saturday, April 6th, there were 2,013 families who registered to stay on the interest list. 1,235 of those completed the survey. Of that figure, 1,235, 888 want a charter school. Of that 1,235, 337 want to learn more about Wake Preparatory Academy. And then, of course, there were 13 who did not want a charter school. And we probably figured they may have been seniors and didn't have kids. And of those households, the number of kids were 2 or more in the grades K-12 range, the website. And then, of course, we have a Facebook. People love social media, so we made sure we had a Facebook page. And these numbers, I'm sure, have grown since last evening. We had 370 likes, 339 followers, 291,000 impressions, 1,431 engagements, 38,500 videos, and 5,426 clicks. So the Facebook page also has a lot of activity, as of course our website. And we have sent out 1,883 emails. Of course, when our families signed up for the interest list and to take the survey, they voluntarily gave their email addresses. So there was a way to stay in contact with them.
Thank you. I mean,
give them.
We're going to run out of time, I'm afraid. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have any? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is there someone from Charter One here?
Yes, indeed.
The EMO?
Yes, indeed. Here they are behind me.
Oh no, that'd be fine. I think it'd be fine.
From Charter One, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'd like to speak with somebody from Charter One.
All right. Yes, sir, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you so much. I'm Bill Guttery, the Chief Operating Officer of Charter One.
Yes, I've got a couple of questions for you. Is this the first school in North Carolina that you're partnering?
Yes, it is.
How many schools in Arizona do you work with?
We operate 12 schools in Arizona, about 10,000 students, almost 10,000 students in those 12 schools. We operate 3 K through 12 schools, and then there's 9 K through 6 schools.
How are the kids doing?
It's pretty amazing. I think I have a
Academically.
unique perspective of that because of the fact that when I came on to Charter One and American Leadership Academy, I was able to be the director of one of those schools that we opened. So I opened a school that we had 1,800 students the first year. And I was able to take that school and be able to have a K through 12 experience with all those 1,800 kids year one. And it was unique because it was a Title I area. And so we had a lot of free and reduced lunch families in those areas, and we were able to take those. And our first year of operation, I was able to take that school and double everybody's score. All the children we had of the state assessment, we doubled the score of every school in the area. And so achievement-wise and academically, we were able to take all of those students that were in that area, in that Title I area, and bring them into a Charter I school and be able to up their achievement. The environment is an amazing opportunity at this school to be able to take the kids and have a full high school experience, truly, to be able to have not only just an academic focus, but be able to have the social experience of being able to have sports and being able to have the arts and being able to have teachers that are highly qualified. 2 years later, we opened up 5 schools in the same summer in that area, and we're able to employ 250 teachers over the summer without any problem employing the teachers, because those teachers wanted to teach in that type of environment. So the success of Charter One has been incredible, and to be able to provide this type of experience to children is one of my passions and one of my goals, to be able to really, truly give kids an opportunity to be raised in this type of experience.
You said that you've got 12 schools up and running in Arizona?
Yes.
Are those schools typically K through 12 and 2,000 students?
So what it is we have 9 K through 6. Average is probably about 700-800 in those, and then the K through 12s are on the same campus. So there's a K through 6 building and then a 7 through 12 building on the same 40-acre campus, and that's what we would probably do here as well.
There are some eyebrows have been raised because of this huge starting number, whatever it is, 1,600 or whatever, going up to 2,000. Are you confident that you can manage that many students your first year?
Well, number one, I did it personally, and so I know exactly how to do it. And then I have an amazing confidence in having Mitch Schwab and Michael Way here as vice presidents over the North Carolina division. I have an amazing confidence in Glenn Way and his construction abilities to get the job done. Brian Holmes is our chief counsel here in the room with us. We have this team at Charter One that has done it before, done it successfully, and really has a proven track record of getting it done. Plus the experience that the kids have is incredible, because that's our focus, is to provide that experience to learn, lead, change the world for those kids. And that mission, vision, and values is so important. The other thing is I think we have an amazing confidence in this board. Hilda and her board have been incredible. I've seen a lot of boards. I've never seen a board that's so engaged. I've never seen a board that is so passionate, that has the time and the efforts. They spend hours and hours and hours making sure that every single detail is covered. And then, of course, the public has given us a gigantic stamp of approval as we've gone out. I've been at all those events. And when we show up to those events, we can't hardly handle the crowds that come in and want what we have to offer. And so, yes, I am 100% completely confident that we can not only get the numbers, but we can also provide the services that they desire.
Thank you. Also, there's some flack on the internet about your CEO. Is it Glenn Way?
Mm-hmm.
And he has had financial problems in the past. Is Charter One solid financially? Is that something that in North Carolina now we won't have to worry about?
Yeah, totally. Bob Plowman is our CFO. If you'd like to ask him about our financial ability, he would be glad to come up. If not, I can just tell you that the financial capability of Charter One is probably one of its biggest assets. To be able to come in and have the wherewithal to build these buildings and be able to support this infrastructure is incredible. And I'm 1,000% confident that we have the financial ability and the background and the investors to be able to do this with complete fidelity.
Can I ask a question about the
Sure.
the building? So is this one of the situations where it's, if I understand it correctly, it's a development group builds the building, leases it to the school,
Yes,
right? So kind of similar to what NHA has done, kind of similar to what Charter School USA has done.
exactly.
So I think Charter Schools USA is called Red Apple or something like that.
Yes.
So Red Apple builds the building and then leases it to the school.
Very common practice, and we've done it a number of times and have had great success with it. It's a great way to be able to stand up those buildings, to be able to have the financial ability to do so, and then also be able to then bond those schools out, get a better interest rate so that moving forward, the school is completely viable for years to come.
There were some questions too about maybe that Charter One would contract out some of the work. At least there was an option for that in the contract. How's that worked in other schools, and you know, kind of what things do you plan to contract out here?
Well, best practices is what we strive for, and we also strive to be able to deliver whatever we're doing at the lowest possible price and the most efficiency for what we have financially. And so, yes, we'll research and we'll bid out and we'll be able to partner with those people that can give us the very best services for the very lowest price.
So like what type of service would that be?
I think services such as the architecture, such as the building design, such as the construction, all the different phases of
What
construction.
about as far as management of the school?
Management of the school, we handle that as Charter One, and so there'll be very little of that, other than maybe some back office things that we are able to do financially, where we'll contract some of that out. But we have our own HR department, we have our own finance department, we have our own marketing department. I'm over the marketing department myself and have had 30 years of marketing experience, so I think our team is so solid that we're able to do most everything in-house.
What kind of marketing are you planning for this school? Because that's going to be a big thing if you're going to get 1,600 students.
Yeah. The marketing side of it is so interesting because of the fact that what I found out in being able to fill all these schools that we built is the fact that it's moms talking to moms. It's being able to get in front of families and being able to understand their needs. And so we do a lot of events. We go out into the public, we get their comments, we draw them in that way. We also do a lot of social media. We have a very robust website. And so then we'll do mailings. We did a mailing just a couple weeks ago of 22,000 people. We mailed to every single household in the area because we want to invite everybody to come. And we want it to be a neighborhood school, and we want all families to be able to come and attend.
So you sent out 22,000 mailers for Wake Preparatory?
We sure did. Because we wanted to be able to gauge exactly where we're at. And so we spent the money to be able to put out those 22,000 pieces and got an amazing response from it.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with your marketing plan and what was posted on eBoard.
Thank you.
And I see that you also have budgeted a lot of money for that, which I think is good, given your high projected enrollment numbers. But I was a little confused because I love the campus layout plan that you had in there.
Uh-huh.
But then in the application, it says it's only going to be 144,000 square foot facility. So can you kind of elaborate the whole campus?
No, the square footage of the campus. Yeah, year one would be 140, but then it'll grow from there. The property is about 50 acres. So the property is about 50 acres. And so we'll grow because of the fact that we do things based on our means. And so as we grow and we get K-11, K-12, of course we'll get bigger. As we add different sports, as we add different arts, we'll grow.
And you're starting K-10, right?
K-10.
So that 144,000 will house 1,600 kids at this point?
Yes.
And so when you were talking a little bit about internally what you provide as far as HR, so you would be doing, Charter One would do all the power school, all the attendance, all the financial, that wouldn't be done by the charter school itself?
Well, on that, are we using, we'll do all that in-house. Corey Drawn here locally will help us as well. And so because of the fact that this is our first school in North Carolina, we feel like we need that support locally. And so Corey Drawn brings a special set of skills that understands North Carolina, has done that many times, and so the financial back office type information, we're going to lean on him to help us with that to make sure that that's flawless.
Could you help me just, who is Corey Boone?
John?
Who's he work for?
Oh, okay. All right.
Would he be employed by Charter One, or is he gonna be part of the?
As a subcontractor type relationship, yes.
And his fee will be paid out of the contract fees from the management company?
Correct.
Remind
So-
us again, what is the salary of your core teachers?
The salary of our core teachers?
Yeah. At Wake Prep.
Do you have that, Hilda? 45,000 is what the budget is.
And thank you. And do you anticipate any zoning issues in Wake Forest with this school, or? have
Well,
you
of
pretty
course,
much-
there's going to be issues across the board, but we have a team that can handle those. And when those come up, we'll definitely handle those.
They're here too.
There'll be zoning issues, but the property that we have, we feel like is solid.
What's the management fee at 1.9?
Thank you.
74 teachers
Management
we'll have in year one.
Yes.
Do you feel that $40,000 is enough professional development?
45,000? 45,000?
Do you feel that's enough?
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's enough.
From hiring 250 teachers in one summer, I can tell you that the market will bear. We will do what the market will bear, and we'll be able to get the teachers that we need based on that. And so we'll work hard to make sure that we get the teachers that we need.
She was asking about professional development. 40,000 would be enough for professional development for that number of teachers.
I'm not sure on that. I would turn to Hilda on that. And the professional development budget.
Yes, we think that some of the staff development will be done by Charter One staff. They provide those as part of our services to us as well. And we think that outside contract services provide the rest, and we think that would be enough to meet that need.
So you're gonna outside contract additional professional development?
I said, yes, we would do some where it's needed for that. Yes, that's the reason for that separate line item in there.
Because my question for you is, you're paying, I don't know if my math is right, but I think it's roughly a 17 to 18% management fee.
It's going to vary between 12 and 15% for the management fee. We negotiated that. We looked at what has happened in North Carolina, other charter schools, and I wasn't comfortable with that what I saw, and the way I understand it is, the charter schools generally, by some of the other EMOs, they sweep the bank account for the charter school and then pay all the invoices out of that EMO's account, and then that remaining money is what the pay is for the management company. We wanted to put a limit to that, and so we set our management fee at 15% as the max. It actually is 12% plus a 3% incentive pay for the, if we meet our goals, they will receive that additional 3%.
So what are you getting for that 12%?
We get all the back office services, we get the management of the facilities, we get the management for the staff, and the expertise that they bring.
But you have a principal, you're hiring 2 principals, you're hiring staff.
The staff, except for the primary person, will all be the staff that is a part of the school board's responsibility, yes.
Well, but so when you say the management of the staff is part of the management fee,
Correct.
what does that mean?
That means that they're providing us with the leadership, they're providing us with the administrative support service to support that staff. That means that they'll provide us with the HR and advise the board on things that relate to managing the school as a whole and the facilities as a
So
whole.
for $1.9 million, I mean, because what I would think marketing would be something, because marketing is such a huge factor here, but you've got a $150,000 marketing budget.
Correct. But we also, in marketing, once the school opens, a major part of that fee is going to go toward our communications with parents and with students. It's not just that we're marketing to the community at large, but we're also, in that budget line item, see that as the communications with parents and families.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is HR, management of the staff, which to me right now is still nebulous. Student accounting, we know you're gonna, but they're gonna subcontract that probably, or they're gonna do it themselves. Financial is going to, Corey Drawn, we just heard. So those two, basically right now, student accounting and financial are coming out of the management fee, right? Am I reading the budget right? And HR,
And then the lease payment.
hiring.
And a lease payment.
But then we have a lease payment of $2.2 million, but and then the management of the lease payment.
And then HR is, I'd be concerned is who do the
Professional
employee,
development,
who are the employees hired by?
Right.
Are they employees of the Charter One or are they employees of the charter school?
They are employees of the charter school board.
Yeah, it's an
The
EMO.
EMO is
Yeah.
bringing those, doing the interviews and bringing those applicants with a recommendation to the board.
But but that part of the reason I'm asking this is because you were saying, we got 40,000 for staff development. For $1.9 million, I would expect Charter One to do a lot of staff development.
Well, I do too. And so I think.
I mean, I would say I'm not going to spend anything on staff development. I don't need $40,000. You need to solve that problem. I mean, you got $400,000 in instructional materials. Are they bringing any proprietary materials to the table? When
Sure.
Team CFA comes, they usually donate $200,000 to get them started.
The raise criterion is that's a proprietary product.
Okay, are you paying for that in that $400,000 that you're paying for?
Yes,
I
we're
get.
paying, that's included in their fee.
Okay. I guess the question that I'm just getting at is, and when we're talking about management organizations, particularly a management organization that we're not familiar with, is like, this is a lot of money. So
Let
we're
me give you
saying,
maybe a little bit more detailed list that'll help you out. Site management, over all of the facilities and everything.
what does that mean?
That means that overall management of the charter school academic program, overall management of the K-6 site.
What does that mean?
The 7 through 12
But what does that mean? I mean, doesn't the principal do that?
No, that means that we take care of all of the maintenance and facility demands that are on there. If they
Custodial?
need to have
So they don't have to
changes,
pay custodial fees?
They don't. And so
Okay, that's
then you have
big.
all the
That's
IT
important.
And
services.
that's pretty standard with an EMO.
It is. So
I
all
mean,
the,
I think it
That's
varies.
part of your management companies.
Because
One
we
of the
got,
big
well,
expenses
but
that-
you just said custodial, but there's 89,000 in custodial and 55,000 in custodial supplies. So you guys, so in their budget, they still have to pay custodial.
That's correct, and we manage all of that. Also, all of the
So
IT
you
and the
you
technology.
hire a custodian? Is that what you mean by manage?
No, we have that division in Charter One that takes care of that for us.
From Arizona?
Yes. That will be handled here locally through our people here locally. And then all the technology and the IT services, designing and all of the IT systems, assuring the alignment with the technology, providing staff and training on all the IT systems, designing the overall data collection system, managing the IT staff. And then you go into the grants and fundraising that we do for them, being able to go after the grants and the fundraising.
Why do they
that
need
we
grants and fundraising? I mean,
in order to operate extracurricular activities and be able to operate the school and be able to be most efficient, then we go after grants and we go after fundraising.
what type of grants do you anticipate getting in North Carolina for a charter school?
That's what we'll do, the research and find the different grants that are available. There's different grants that are available for IT. There's different grants that are available
Like
for.
E-rate?
Well, there's that, of course, but then there's other additional grants. So we're always looking for ways in which to support the school. Also, our public relations and marketing, then health services is a big factor, that we help the school with all of their health services. So making sure that they're compliant in all matters, making sure that they have the right people on staff, making sure that they have all the abilities to do health services with all the kids that are there.
What does that mean exactly? Like have a nurse on campus?
Of course,
So, is student health or adult health?
Both.
I'm just confused.
student health mostly.
So, like making sure that they're compliant with nurse.
course.
How many nurses are in the budget?
I'm not sure how many.
We don't actually have to have nurses at charter schools,
That's
right?
been answered.
Somebody
Easy,
has to do
seems
all
like it
that.
should be easy to.
We have a line item in our budget where we can contract as needed for professional services, and that could be one of those that's required.
What about the I mean, So data, HR, health services. We heard marketing, but there's $150,000 in marketing. I just think as a board, I think you need to know, what are you getting for $1.9 million? And I think for us as a board, call it $2 million a year, which is actually more. We approved this charter. It's basically a $10 million grant to a loan that's going to management organization. And if we think that's great, it's great. I'm just saying it's just I feel like we need to know what's in that management fee. Because this would be the largest management fee I think we've ever seen.
I am treasurer.
I think there were 26 pages of the management agreement. Have you all read the management agreement with Charter One?
We sat down and spent several meetings going over this in addition to personal time outside of meetings, and spent several meetings negotiating and making changes in the contract with them to come to an agreement where we felt comfortable with the services that we were getting for the money we were having to pay. And again, we feel like we were doing something and putting it out in the open, where I didn't see that in other charter schools' budgets that I reviewed in preparation for this, because the money was swept from the board's account, and we didn't know what the management fee was. Now, it may be just only where I saw it, but that what appeared to me reading it from not knowing anything to what I understood. So we put in our budget a ceiling for what that management fee could be.
I think I agree that that's better. I mean, I would agree that's better. I think it's confusing sometimes when, they're just sweeping the bottom.
It's the only one that I saw too, where in our agreement with Charter One, where they have an incentive for success. Our base fee is 12%. I didn't see any other charter agreement or heard of anyone where we had where they had a 3% success fee. I'm gonna call it, where we meet our goals as a charter school.
Well,
let me ask another question.
Principal's going to be the one
first
that
few years,
makes the success happen. Let's be real.
If you run a deficit, if the school runs a deficit, will Charter One cover you?
That's what a part of our agreement is that the management fee is the last thing that gets paid. All the invoices, all the staff, whatever's needed to meet the needs of students and provide the education of students take priority to the management fee. That's the last thing.
So with a brand-new facility, you could be running in the red for several years before Charter One ever starts to recoup its management fee. Is that correct?
Well, I guess it is possible to have that, but hopefully as a board and with their help, we can be better than that. We can do a good job, because we're going to manage our expenses as we look at our budget, as we look at the number of students we have. We will adjust our budget to meet those needs, with the priority going to the students.
How many staff from Charter One are located in North Carolina?
I believe at the present time they have located 2, and I think we're still over a year away from opening. That's probably, they have 3 now, 3 staff members located here.
And who are those people?
What do they do?
Those people were here last year.
Schwab. I moved my entire family here a few weeks ago. Wow.
What are their roles? What will be your roles?
Our roles right now are to be the boots on the ground full time. I mean, my oldest is starting kindergarten this year. We moved our families out here. I just graduated from graduate school here, and extremely grateful for the opportunity to work with this board and work with Charter One, and as we grow and as we're accepted, Charter One in North Carolina, the division in North Carolina will grow, and that's, I mean, we're here, boots on the ground, full time.
So, are you going to be the founding principal?
Right now, we're looking for a potential individual to be the founding principal.
But it wouldn't be you.
Probably not. No.
What would your role be?
To manage.
Manage the principal.
To assist and to manage the entire Wake Preparatory Academy. Our Charter One's job is to be able to fulfill the mission, vision, and values of the board of Wake Preparatory Academy.
Isn't that the principal's job?
So it's the teacher's job as well, but we manage that.
But you're not the principal.
No.
So what would your role? Were you a principal? I assume you were a principal at one of the schools out west.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I've been out west. So I just graduated with my JD MBA out west. But before that and during that, I have been with Charter One since its inception in the compliance division and the marketing division. I mean, I was a bus driver several years ago, so I've seen it from.
They're going to need a bus driver because there's no money for bus drivers in here. There's actually zero for bus drivers.
That's part of what will come out of the management fee that we're talking about.
So the management fee will pay the bus drivers? The management company will pay the bus drivers?
That's part of, and if we need a contract out, so be it. But we know how to run transportation extremely efficiently, extremely well, running 26 in Arizona currently.
Yeah. There's money in the budget for transportation. There's just not any money for the actual salaries of the drivers.
Mm-hmm.
So is that other gentleman or the lady there? Are you the principal? Are you going to be the principal?
I'm a former high school English teacher. I've taught in Durham at Durham School of the Arts and then Voyager Academy. I also ran a teen program at the JCC in Durham and Chapel Hill. So currently I'm on the business development team, and I'm kind of a liaison between Arizona and North Carolina.
Okay.
So my role is to, if we get ready to open, help with the 100 plus steps we have set up for day one. So we're here to provide all the support services to help the school be ready to open and turn over the keys to the board on day one. So that's my role.
Who's going to be so I guess the gentleman that was just here, you're going to be the managing director for the school, over the principals? Yes. Who do the principals report to in the EMO?
They'll report to Mitch and Michael.
Mitch, okay.
And to the board.
And to the board, yeah. I mean, I assume it's a dual report. That's usually how it is. Okay.
I mean, I feel like we're almost getting into a philosophical discussion of the value of EMOs. I mean, I've got a 24-page agreement that spells out the agreements between them. I do think it's fair game to ask, what you get in a management contract, what you get for a management fee. But I also know that they're not going to get any more state funds if they had an EMO or if they didn't have an EMO. And so my question, more than what happens with the money, as long as it's legal, what happens with the money is, do the kids get an education? And so can anybody, I know you talked about the gentleman from Charter One, I'm sorry I forgot your name right now. Bill talked about the academic outcomes. Is there anybody that can talk a little bit more about the academic outcomes that Charter One's had across their network? Because to me, that's more important. I don't care if you take the whole amount if the kids get a great education. And that's really what my number one concern is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the academic outcome is what it's all about. And that's what I said in my opening comments, was that it is all about the kids. And in all of our schools in Arizona, we're A-rated. We have achievement that are better than the public schools around us. We're able to hire teachers that are certified and that have amazing records. And so the academic side of it is super important. We also have in Charter One a chief academic officer that maintains the curriculum and makes sure that there's fidelity and all of that, maintains the professional development to make sure that the professional development is done properly, the training. We believe that the environment really matters, and so when we go to train our teachers, we teach them about the environment, teach them about loving the kids and taking care of the kids, providing them a safe environment, providing them a way to learn soft skills as well, leadership, entrepreneurship, financial literacy. Those type of things are really important, we believe, in that overall education of a child. And so, yes, we'll provide those things.
So in reading, you're using core knowledge?
Yes.
And both the skills and practice components, or?
Yes.
And what's the math curriculum?
Math curriculum is Saxon Math.
And what grade? Up until what grade?
Oh, Jen has the curriculum side of it.
So, and actually, I'll turn it over to Val too if you want to cut in at any point with curriculum, but currently we're using Core Knowledge and Saxon Math in Arizona. We have not yet decided the exact curriculum in North Carolina. We're waiting to find what best aligns with our standards in the state and the common course of study. We're looking at HFM, yes, Houghton Mifflin for math and probably for English as well now.
What will you be using for your early literacy program?
I think that's one of the ones that we're still looking for and still researching to find out what's best in North Carolina. When we submitted the application, we had heard good things about Common Core Knowledge, and that was what, like we said, is used in Arizona. But we're looking to shift it over to see if there's something better.
On the org chart, it says the principal. It says like there's like a director and then assistant director. The director works for the management organization, and then the assistant director works for the school. Or just help me understand that, because it says like director, EMO president, HR, legal. So I assume this is like the back office. Is the director technically an EMO employee, or how does that structure work? It says director, assistant director on the org chart. And the assistant director is orange, which is the color of the board of directors. The director is white, which is in the box with the EMO employees.
The primary director is an employee of the EMO. Everyone under that, the principals, are all employees of the board.
Okay, so that person's salary comes out of that management agreement?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay, and I'm seeing some nodded heads. And then the two principals, there's like one for K-8 and one for high school?
Correct.
And they're managed by the EMO staff?
But they're employees of the board.
The two principals?
Correct.
Which is very similar to some of the other.
Point of clarification
Well, no,
here,
I mean,
Eric. Aren't employees at a school joint employees of both the board and the EMO in the state of North Carolina?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
All right.
Having run, and one of my past history things was running a payroll company and managing HR sections of that part of it. You can have joint employment like that, but it is determined by the contract of that particular situation.
Thank you.
I mean, so if I'm remembering correctly, teachers can be employees of EMOs now under current law.
Yes.
I think that changed a couple years back.
That did change.
But that's not the case here. Here, the teachers will be employees. The hiring and firing is by the board, and so the EMO might do the recruiting and might do the initial reviews and all that, but the board is who makes the decisions on
We're
teachers.
the final authority. The board is the final authority on that, of employment and dismissal.
But is the director that works for the EMO, is that person in the school? Is that like a school-based position?
It is, yes,
It is.
yes.
And okay,
I
so
just
that
heard
person
that
works.
from behind me, yes.
Okay. So it's like that. I mean, that's important. Like that's part of
Sure.
the management fee. So you're getting another school leader basically as part of the management fee. So like,
Correct.
I think that's kind of the type of question I was getting at when I was like, what are we
I
getting
see.
for the management fee?
Okay.
That's a big deal. If you're getting,
Sure.
if the senior manager is an EMO employee paid out of the contract, that's $100,000 salary benefit that you're getting via that management fee.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, more, and then that person's in the school managing your principals. Well,
I have a question, if I may, going back to the enrollment numbers, just based on your experience in Arizona. I mean, thank you for the details about the enrollment in the Arizona schools. Have you had any challenges? These are aggressive numbers compared to most charters we see. Have you had any issues with meeting your enrollment targets, particularly in those first few years in your other schools?
Yeah, there's always outlying schools or one-offs, that you have trouble with enrollment. And when that happens, we just double the efforts and go after it. But the beauty of it is that we have the financial ability to hold and keep going despite that. And so, yes, we anticipate no enrollment problems here. But yeah, in other schools, we've had enrollment issues where we've had to go after it and get it done. And we have.
So of the schools in Arizona, how many did you start like K-10? Because K-10 is pretty aggressive too, because you're starting elementary school, middle school, and high school all at once.
Yeah, we started 3 schools at K-12. K-12 day one. In year one. In fact, the last school we opened, we had 80 seniors that showed up the first day one and filled the school to capacity day one. So K through 12.
I have a question, if I could. Other EMOs that have partnered with North Carolina nonprofits have usually, to establish a school culture and a classroom culture, they've often started modestly with if they were a K-8 school, for example, they'd start K-5 to actually build the culture and the both classroom and school culture. How do you accommodate 11th and 12th graders coming in that have no familiarity with the Charter 1 culture? And I mean, I'm having difficulty understanding that. I understand the aggressive numbers, and I understand Charter 1
no, that's a
better than
really
I did at the
good
beginning.
question. That's a really good question. And for me, it happened personally. So when I opened the school and we had seniors show up and juniors and sophomores, and we had that whole range, what we had to do is we had to set that culture early. And so we have an amazing set of progressive discipline to where we're able to help the kids to understand where they need to be. It's been my experience that when you expect kids to do more, they actually do it. And when you hold them accountable, they actually go and do it. And so we have a system in place with our raised values and with the ability to take the kids through leadership training and to be able to have them take those raised values and incorporate those. All of our raised values are threaded through all of our curriculum. So respect, accountability, integrity, service, excellence are all thread through those through the entire curriculum. And so when they start their math class, they talk for a few minutes about respect. And the leadership side of it has been incredible too, where you train kids to be leaders and they take over. What I found is that I had some discipline problems when I first started, but then as I got them involved in the culture and as I trained them in leadership, then all of a sudden I turned around and the kids were policing themselves. The kids were going up to each other and saying, we don't do that here. And so my discipline issues went way down because of the fact that the kids were actually getting on board, they were learning those leadership principles, and then they were talking to each other about it. And that was an amazing thing for me to see, and something that I think North Carolina will benefit from greatly.
I had a question about one last question about the EC budget. There are only 4 teachers for, how many kids in year one?
1,600.
That seems
I'd
like
to,
grossly under.
Respond to your statement also. One of the reasons I think that we have something, a unique opportunity here is that we have 5 charter schools that are K-8 in this Wake Forest area that are looking for a high school. They're already going to have a charter school discipline and attitude toward them. And so we're bringing that in to assist us. We've offered, and we plan to offer an opening for those people to come in as well. And then we think that will help us set the culture that we want as they bring it from the charter schools they're in.
Where is it going to be?
In answer to the question about whether we have enough EC teachers or not, you may have noticed that in our personnel list we have 2, and in our budget we have 4 for the first year. Whether 4 is going to be enough or not, it is hard to say at this point because until we go through the lottery and see what our enrollment actually is and how many EC students we have and what type of disabilities they have, we won't really know how many we need. But 2 things. One is if we need more, we'll hire more, and we will make sure that those children are taken care of. The other thing is because of the fact that we're primarily going to use an inclusion model, the teacher, there can be a higher ratio of students to teachers.
Well, not necessarily. it depends on what's on their IEP.
Well, but if they're going into the regular classroom most of the time, if it's not a pull-out program, that's what I'm talking about. That
But if the
but
IEP
if we need more, we'll hire more.
But if you're getting 1,600 kids, if their IEP says they get 2 hours of pullout every day when they come to this school, to Wake Prep, you have to provide that.
Right. And but what I'm saying is, for the most part, we're going to have kids as much as possible mainstreamed into the regular classrooms. And if we have, and we may need some self-contained classes too. And if we do, then we'll have to hire more teachers. But we know that.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 teachers at my school of 400 kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we very well may need more,
You
but we're
have 8?
prepared to deal with that.
How many?
550.
She has 8 for 550.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
We
I mean,
also may.
you probably want to double that. You probably want to triple that.
We can also take funds from our regular teaching budget and apply those where needed. So if we need to move some funds from that to support the EC teachers, we'll do that. We'll make budget adjustments where it's needed to meet the needs of the kids. That's the primary thing.
So tell me about just following up on that, just so there is going to be self-contained or there's not?
Well, our plan to start, unless we know different, we don't plan to have self-contained, but we plan to do pullouts. But if it is needed, we'll provide it by budget adjustments.
So we are going to do pull-ups.
That is correct. That is the plan.
She just said we're doing
It's
inclusion.
not pullout?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, mostly we'll be doing inclusion, but we very well could need more than one self-contained class. We just don't know until we get. But I agree with you. It's very possible we're going to need to have significantly more EC teachers than we have budgeted at this point.
Great. Last question. Has any of the board visited the schools in Arizona?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, we did.
A couple of us visited the American Leadership Academy, the Queen Creek. Yes, to answer your question.
Great.
And we were very impressed with it. And this is one reason we want to duplicate the K-12 at American Leadership. And just before you close, I would like to say that the board has, we have analyzed our application and everything that it went to get it to where it is, and we have agreed to ask for an amendment during the Ready to Open process to use a weighted lottery. We want as many kids as we can help as part of Wake Preparatory Academy.
That's great.
And in summary, leading up to this day and this moment, the Wake Preparatory Academy Board has demonstrated in real time, in our real world, that the application for our charter is truly how project-based learning works. And we seek your unanimous approval. Thank you very much for your time, for the sake of our children.
All right. Stephen said that we started. Thank you, Hilda. Really appreciate it. Stephen said we started at 10 or 9:10, so I'm going to give us a few minutes to discuss as a board. What are people's thoughts?
I think the numbers are aggressive, very aggressive, and I'm very concerned about the numbers. And however, I think the board is smart enough, and I think the management company is smart enough to adjust on what the choices that are made by the public. I sent an email to a few folks. I did my own research. I know some people in Arizona that are in the charter school world. They could not have been more highly complimentary of the success of this EMO. They've watched it over the years and encouraged me to, this would be a good EMO to come into North Carolina. We're always concerned about facility issues. We're seeing our year delays because of people not being able to get their facilities. This is another EMO company that has got that figured out. Now they just got to work with trying to get it coded and open the school, working with the local. So I, for one, am in favor of this. I think it would be good, and like what Stephen said, you're not going to get any more money or any less money. You get the same amount of money. You've got to manage your money, and you've got to produce results. And I think we hold all our charter schools to a high accountability on performance, governance, and operations.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing that I'd like to remind everybody, because I think this gets forgotten sometimes, mostly by our, well, I guess I'll call them friends in the media. Sometimes they'll talk about for-profit charter schools. There is not a for-profit charter school in North Carolina. All charter schools, every charter is held by a nonprofit corporation, and they may have contracts with for-profit entities. I don't think there is a school in North Carolina, traditional or charter, that does not have a contract with a for-profit entity.
That's
right?
true.
Because last time I checked, Thomas Built School Buses, I think they make a profit. Right? I'm pretty sure Pearson, that provides all the stuff, makes a profit. I am
In fact,
pretty
I
sure
think Pearson is, what is their margin? It's pretty
it's pretty high.
high.
It's pretty high. And I mean, and I think you know, so I think we need to, you know, from a philosophical standpoint, we need to stop kidding ourselves and thinking that everybody that's in the education is just doing it out of the goodness of their heart and they're ready to lose millions of dollars to do it, because I mean, people get paid for working at a school. People that provide services to school, they get paid for those services. And here, this board, which I think is a fairly strong board, has thought that the best bang that they get for the buck that they get from the state is to partner and get these services that are detailed in the management agreement. So I mean, that's just purely from a philosophical standpoint. I mean, I looked at it. You know, the only thing that gives me heartburn, but it's not enough that a Tums wouldn't knock out, is the number of students that you're talking about in the first year in that grade span. But gosh, they've done it before in other states. The grades seem to be good in other states. I think what Linda Lynn just shared with us is important. And just based on the strength of the application, I thought they did fine in the interview. I thought they did good in the interview, and then I thought the application looked really good. So, you know, I'm leaning towards supporting the school as well.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we move this school forward to ready to open status.
I second that.
All right, it's been properly moved in second. Discussion on the motion.
I'd like to say one thing. When you're talking about money, remember, these schools do not get the funds from every county for buildings, and they have to use this money for their buildings. So they're short the money that different county schools get for buildings, and they still do a better job.
Mr. Chair, I think Charter One is going to be a good fit for North Carolina. We need an EMO with integrity, with academic performance track record, an EMO with deep pockets. This fits Charter One, and I think this is a pretty strong board to oversee Charter One. And I hope my colleagues go ahead and give them the thumbs up on a recommendation to our state school board.
I would just add, it's a strong board, history of strong academic success in the other schools that they manage in other states. I really appreciate forget the gentleman's name, but the gentleman who spoke, he has the personal experience of having done this himself in a large school, and I think that for me resonates. And you know, commitment to North Carolina by already committing people in the community to help the school get successful. So I'd just echo the other comments.
Other comments?
My biggest concern is the grade span. From Ms. Parlay's comments on the 5 area charter schools, K-8, they're looking for a place for the students to go in a high school. I'm just wondering why this wasn't started as a high school, but that's just my thoughts.
I think the waiting list at the K-8 schools that she mentioned is probably the reason.
I think it was an interesting piece of information, sorry, that the gentleman from the board shared too about the other schools in the area that are K-8s, that those families are already accustomed to the charter school way of life in a sense, that are looking for a high school option.
Right.
I think that's important fact. That gives me a little more comfort on those high numbers, I guess.
Wake Forest area.
Yeah, they end up wanting a ninth grade every year. There's a bunch of students that come out of the 8th grade and want a ninth grade somewhere to go.
That's why I
A
said
good place to
high
go.
school.
The high school
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I think if I remember, Wake Forest Prep tried to do a high school. Am I correct? But they ended up withdrawing. But not. It was more of a logistical problem than it had to do more with the EMO and the PrepNet thing. It didn't have anything to do with there being a want for a high school in the area.
Yeah.
And I think the articulation agreements they're talking about entering into with the other K-8 schools is a strong point of the application. And I do like that they've told us today that they voted to pursue a weighted lottery during the RTO process.
I think the weighted lottery will help. Should this pass with the State Board of Education, I think for what my questions are, big picture, I think I'm asking, is this necessarily what we need right now? I think I just potentially may have some disagreements about what we need. And I feel like for the number of students that they're asking for, this should be like the best application I've ever seen. And I would say it's not. I think it's a strong application. But there were just even basic things. What is the management agreement about? Do we know that the director is going to be paid for by the management company? Do we know if we're doing pull out or push in? Do we, I would say we kind of have a sense about curriculum, but we're not entirely sure. Those are my questions in terms of, supporting an application that is, arguably, I believe this would be the largest start of any charter school in North Carolina. So I think it's got to be airtight. And I think I saw some gaps. But I do think that should it pass, I would recommend an immediate memo to the fact that you're going to increase your transportation budget, and as well the approval of the weighted lottery. That will help whoever is presenting to the state board to argue in its favor. Any further comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I've never seen an application that's airtight. Where
Greensboro Academy was.
I'm sorry?
Greensboro Academy.
Stop.
Other than that.
I've never seen an application ask for 1,000 more students than we would normally say is too many.
Without a proven track record in the state.
Without a proven track record in the state.
That gives me pause. This isn't replication of something we know is successful here yet with 1,600 kids.
Where is it on the map?
Recall
Are
the
you
question.
not going to trust anybody else from out of state?
All right, I think we're ready to call it a question on the
Yes,
vote. Phyllis has made the motion, properly moved and seconded. All in favor of Wake Prep? All right, hand up high, Sherry. Come on now, you're voting for it. Put it up. Put it up. Put it up. All right. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations. All right, so I don't have my. Moving on, we're at Alamance. Let's take a 5-minute break because we're actually on time. 5-minute break and
I read
10:20.
the ethics statement really fast.
Yeah,
That's
good
what-
work.
That's what got
Steven
it.
should start every meeting.
We did the pledge, we started right at 9.
And then I went and got the coffee, and the coffee is cool. I came in, I was like, took the first sip of that coffee.
That's not. I can manage custodians. Just hire them. What's that?
No.
They're just hiring.
No,
They're-
it's not here.
They're gonna.
I had
That's
heard
what those
that
guys are. That are
it was like some
that are,
wet snow
you know.
in like Greensboro and then down in the Charlotte.
But then,
No, it didn't.
hold them accountable.
It just rained cats and dogs.
On my integrity, I could not.
It's amazing.
But I will defend
That was
it
Tuesday.
on behalf of my board.
That was gone by 3 o'clock.
And I will defend it.
We sent an announcement
I
out.
will go back for it. But I'm just gonna, I need them, like, basically, I need to be able to go to the state board and say all the things that I berated them about, they changed. Yeah. So I feel, so otherwise, because they're gonna ask me, how did you vote for that?
Okay.
Which is fine.
Watching out for spiders
We got the youngest member of Alamance County, Alamance Community School here as well for his interview.
How old?
Field all the questions.
How old is? You're doing great, Mom.
You know, you don't get funded for,
Wow.
you don't get funded for, before age 5.
But the baby's on the board.
Baby's on the board. He's
Baby on board.
Non-voting member. Okay, we're ready.
The applicant appearing before the board today is Alamance Community School. This interview will be led by Alex Quigley. They're proposing to locate in Alamance County. The proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 3, 400 students. Year 2, K through 4, 500 students. Year 3, K through 5, 600 students. Year 4, K through 6, 700 students. Year 5, K through 7, 800 students. We did not have an LEA impact or due diligence completed for this application. Pass-fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, all pass. Education plan, all pass. Governance and capacity, all pass. Operations, all pass. Finance, 2 pass, 3 fail. This applicant did not submit a special request. They are not a repeat applicant. They did receive assistance from Charter Success Partners. However, no direct fee was provided, and this application was deemed complete. That concludes my report for Alamance Community School.
All right. She said Alex was going to run this one, but I think on the agenda it says I'm going to run it.
You can run
Steven's got it.
I'll run it. I'll run this application. Y'all come up and introduce yourselves real quick, and then we'll start asking questions. We already kind of got your pitch last month, so just tell us who you are and what you do on the board.
My name's Natalie Turner. I'm president of the board. I was absent last month because I was having this child. But we're here today because I know how important it is.
Better than
I am a
documentation.
former teacher. I taught at Voyager Academy. And I then moved over to Duke University where I worked in human resources. I currently teach Tinkergarten, which is an outdoor education program for early education. And I also formerly served on the Orange County Human Relations Commission.
I'm shorter. I'm Leslie Painter. I'm the vice chair of Alamance Community Schools Board. I have 28 years in education as a general education teacher, special education teacher, and also a school administrator. I was one of the founding board members of Voyager Academy 13 years ago, and I'm also an administrator at a charter school, which also happens to be Voyager Academy.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Jones, and I'll be serving as the treasurer. I have previously served on the Voyager Academy Board of Directors. My children all attended there. 2 have graduated. 1 is still there. And I also worked at the school for a couple of years in the kindergarten classroom.
Hi, I am Alexandra Christensen, and I'm here as an Alamance County resident, mom to a 3-year-old, and I'm an occupational therapist at Duke Regional. And my purpose on the board will be a lot of outreach in the Mebane area, connecting with moms through events, as well as a lot of the Mebane area festivals and different activities to help with marketing.
Good morning. My name is Justin Smith. I'm actually not in the application. I was an added board member after the application was submitted. So if you have your documentation, I'm not on there. But I am currently the director of Ascend Leadership Academy. If I look familiar, it's because I was in front of you guys, I think 2 years ago. Yes, that's right. Know Leslie and some other board members through my experience at Voyager Academy. And obviously am a proponent for school choice and know about the experience that the board has, and want to give the students of Alamance County the same opportunities that they gave to my own children. Actually, Leslie is my children's principal, so I know her experience with some of the programs, project-based learning, empathy, responsive classroom, and obviously know her abilities in that aspect. And then obviously this board and the other members came to me with my experience having gone through this process. I would assume that's why they would want me here. Yeah, I mean, and kind of give guidance about how the process is, some things that they can do to help that along, and just having that experience, having just gone through it. So that's kind of my role here on the board.
Thank you. Okay, let's move in and kind of talk about the application a little bit and see if we can focus our questions in a little bit. I really liked this application. The only section that I failed was the finance section because of the I think it was somewhat the confusion over the other funds, and they've got that fixed now. If you'll look in the e-board, and I'm sure it's in the application system too, they've got a revised budget that does not that takes that other funds out. The other funds, from what our understanding was from last time, was stuff they thought they could get some grants or some fundraising, and so they were including that in there. And so we asked them for a budget that only included guaranteed funds. And the budget looks a lot better now, and so if I looked at this budget, I would give it a pass rather than a fail. So they're using a weighted lottery, and you know, we had a few things like mission, purposes, and goals. I'd really suggest removing the grade levels from the mission statement. I just think it's odd to see the grade levels in the mission statement. Think about taking that out. But I thought, you know, everything else looked pretty good. What other, anybody got anything on mission, purposes, and goals?
I have a couple. I don't have to ask now. Should we ask
Yeah,
now?
yeah, go ahead. We'll start off and we'll just kind of move through it. Anybody wants to ask a question, ask a question.
I don't know if this is mission and purpose or like governance.
Go at it anyway.
Is there a relationship between the Justin? Yeah, but Justin's school, Voyager, like, is it just we're just kind of pooling our respective talents via the relationships that we have? Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to come up to the microphone. Whoever wants to answer all the questions, have them come up to the microphone.
And Leslie, you're not going to be the principal?
Probably will.
You're gonna
Possibly, if the board feels I'm the best fit. I would obviously not be in on that vote. I would recuse myself.
Are you still at the principal?
I am still the principal at Voyager Academy.
They know that this is all...
Yes. My boss knows that we're in the process of...
Your boss is generally a pro-charter growth person.
Yes, she is.
Yes,
Jennifer Lucas is a pro-charter, pro-choice.
Okay, so there's a possibility that you would be the principal.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that would make me feel really good.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, thank you, Alex.
Okay, good. So that, and then with the folks that are connected to Voyager potentially would be involved. How many board members would potentially work for the school other than Leslie?
None.
Okay, that was the only one. Okay, I just wanted to double check that because we had a board the other day that was like the entire board was going to work for the school.
Yeah, with that being said, I'm glad they added Justin because that was one of my questions is if this is a 5-board member and you remove one to become the leader,
Yes.
then it becomes 4. So that helps.
Yes, ma'am.
Alleviate that concern.
What percent? What percent of the district? I had to pull up the thing. What percent of the district would we expect to be in terms in year? I guess year 1.
1-something%.
1%. What's your evidence of demand? I guess on the kind of like. How can we talk a little bit more about demand in Alamance County? It's a relatively small county.
Right. One was location, and one of the reasons we chose Mebane had to do with You know, the closest charter schools are about 20 minutes away to even 30 minutes away. I know those schools also have wait lists. Also looking at some of the school data as far as Alamance County. You know, they had almost 48% of their schools were low performing, most of them being elementary schools. So I think that also really spoke to us as just as a group of, you know, people and educators about not only having another school of choice, but also a school that would really not only put social emotional development, but also academic achievement and closing achievement gaps. And I do have a pretty great track record of doing that. So.
Great.
I think it is closer to 5%.
Was it 5?
I think it's 3 point, it up here.
90% of the students are from Alamance, and that would be.
Yeah, it would be 5% at full capacity in the first year. It would be 3.21% from Alamance, 1.17 from Orange.
Okay, I was doing Orange.
Yeah.
How do you feel that your school will be different than the local schools? Like, how would you attract students?
So I pretty much read through every Alamance County school improvement plan. There were no other schools in Alamance County, elementary or middle, that do project-based learning. I saw a couple of references to that, but no school that really does project-based learning as an integral part of their curriculum. There were also no other schools that used responsive classroom. So I think offering a project-based learning focus in addition to responsive classroom is something really unique, but also that works really well. I've seen it in my own school, just how the climate, that community of learners and respect, but also teaching children how to collaborate, have empathy, and really making children 21st century learners and preparing them for jobs that we don't even necessarily know exist at this time.
Do you have any plans to expand your board and to maybe recruit different backgrounds as far as marketing, legal, finance, that type of thing?
So, from more of a marketing standpoint, I am a Mebane resident, and there are a ton of moms groups. There are a lot of different events. Mebane has a very active community involvement, and there are a lot of festivals. And so, in discussion, we really wanted to lead more of a grassroots campaign in terms of creating awareness about the school. A lot of the festivals have vendors and booths set up, and so that was one of the first approaches that we were going to take, in addition to a strong digital campaign. And our marketing strategies were going to be conducted in both English and Spanish.
So what about, are you thinking about expanding the board?
Yes, and so with some of that, with this community involvement, it is going to involve reaching out to parents as well as to community leaders who would be interested in joining the board to have a stronger Alamance County representation on our board.
So with that being said, the application stated that after the third year, you would look to add parents. Why wait 3 years to add parents?
Let me just.
Yeah, I think. I'll let Natalie. She has the baby.
It is our plan to start adding board members, you know, if we are granted approval, we would start adding board members. I think the parent, that is part of more of the improvement plan, where we pool together parents and teachers and for the school improvement plan. But for a board, we would want to do that as soon as we start our grassroots campaign.
Well, and let me also say, and I think also too, I think part of it is identifying diverse members of the community, but also that would be a group of parents. You know, at this point, we don't necessarily know who the parents could be, but also looking at people with different backgrounds, like an attorney or an accountant. But yes, we would definitely expand our board to also include parents, once we know who some of those parents would be.
What other aspects of the management, because I know that Charter Success Partners is not a management company, but what other aspects of school accounting or what else are you going to be using?
So Charter Success Partners we would be contracting out with them as far as managing our finances. They would manage our lottery, Power School, enrollment, all of those type of things, more, I guess, sort of like a business office, human resources side, but they're not our management company. We would contract out with them to provide those services. Is that? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
All right. We're gonna keep going.
Ms. Painter, I have a question for you, since you'll potentially be the leader.
Yes,
in
ma'am.
the section about grades and promotion and retention, etc., the application stated that in quarters 1 through 3, students would not receive a grade below a 60. And I understand where you're coming from, but I know some of the evaluators had a question on how do you then
Make sure that
know
kids
that
aren't
the
just
ones-
like goofing off or doing
know
whatever.
the ones who really need the remediation
Mhm.
and need targeting for the extra support.
Right.
I know personally at my school we use 50
Mhm.
as the base or the bottom score, but in the teacher comments on report cards, obviously we put this is not reflective of the student's grade, but that gives a chance for the kid to be able to redeem him or
Yes.
herself. But I'm assuming you would have some way of keeping track of those students.
Yes. So,
you know who-
so at my current school, we do a really great job with MTSS and doing a lot of tracking. Now, if I were probably more technology savvy, I could figure out some way to do it on a really fabulous spreadsheet of some sort. But we actually use a board, but we track our students that are in tier 2, tier 3 interventions, and we're tracking it not only just for academics, but behavior, for attendance, for tardies. And so we would certainly employ the same type of methodology in tracking those students. And one of the reasons we chose 60 is that it is something that Voyager at the middle school and the high school did after a lot of debate and discussion. And part of it was about sort of like being able to have a little grace and mercy and redemption, because, if your grade is so low and your hole is so deep, often students give up if they don't see a way out. And so part of it was the 60 was, okay, if they see the potential of at least maybe getting to a place, they're possibly more motivated to work to try to get, to pull that up if it's not such a deep hole.
Any other questions anybody has?
Just on the instructional program, I guess you probably go to you, Leslie. Are you going to use the teacher's reading and writing project individualized assessment that comes with that?
So I don't know if currently we're using MClass at Voyager, at least K through 3. And right now the state, there's been a big blackout as far as the state trying to decide if they're keeping MClass or not. If you would have asked when we wrote the application in September, I really loved MClass and loved the data that we got as far as the dibbles and but what Amplify has done is they've changed all the books from the Rigby books to the Amplify books, which about levels A through E are not really developmentally appropriate, and they aren't really aligned with how guided reading levels should be aligned. And so we've had a lot of difficulty. So anyway, in a nutshell, the state is in the process of deciding if they are going to renew the contract next year for with Amplify and M-Class. And they are looking at several other programs for their K-3 early literacy assessment. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the state chooses, because if they choose something that's good, then that's a free program that we can utilize. But if it's not something that's good, then I'm probably going to have to look at, I mean, maybe just going back. I know the DRA just has done it like a DRA 3, and it's online. That might be a possibility. There's a really good Dibbles one online too.
Yeah, this is we're gonna geek out on this, but
yeah, I could talk about. Well, they'll tell you I could talk about reading and curriculum all day long.
Yeah, there's an assessment I think that goes with the teacher's reading and writing project.
There is. It's
that's why I asked.
In the past, it was all still paper and pencil. And so I don't know if they've done an online component, but it's certainly something for me to look into. It was a bit cumbersome when we used some elements of it earlier.
Yeah, I think some other schools are in the same boat. Like, we're in the same boat about it, deciding about M-Class or going a step. I guess the other question I have is just like, walk us through what it looks like to have units of study for reading and writing as a, you know, Linda Lynn has talked a lot about like what is your reading vision given where the state is with third grade reading. Like, what does it look like to this program in actual practice in a classroom? And then what are the systematic phonics, or are there that
there are systematic phonics
to complement what program are you using, that type of stuff?
So essentially the students begin the day for their reading. They would begin on the carpet with a short mini lesson. And for those of you who are in schools, Fountas and Pinnell has just come out with a fabulous new book called Guided Reading Mini Lessons. And I mean, it's really broken up into lots of different, making connections to text, lots of different skills that you need for being a proficient reader. But anyway, you start the morning, you start that on the carpet with a particular mini lesson that's focusing on a particular reading skill that you want all the students to hear about. Then you, after that mini lesson, and you know, typically it's 10 to 20 minutes depending upon how old the students are. Then in my current school, we also use literacy workstations, and I don't know if you're familiar with Debbie Diller, but she does a really great job with that. Students then go into their literacy workstations, which can often be very differentiated depending upon the skill level of different students in the classroom. But one of the stations is the teacher, where they then do guided reading. And guided reading is based on a student's instructional reading level. So, and that's Fountas and Pinnell.
When would the phonics piece happen for K and 1, and what is there a program that you're using for that?
Yes. So we also used and would use Fountas and Pinnell's phonics, and then when you get to third grade, it becomes word study. So within the literacy workstations is often where sometimes part of the mini lesson could also be a phonics piece. But in the workstations are often then where they're also getting work on, you know, particular phonics. You know, if I'm learning a particular phonic, you know, the phonics skill or a particular word family or things like that.
And that's in, you said there were 1 to 20 per class in most grades?
Yes.
And then what did you say was your math?
So math curriculum, as far as buying a canned curriculum, we have found in the past that there is not one curriculum that actually really, and often sometimes I think you rely so much on that curriculum, you end up missing standards, which can really get you in a bit of a mess. So what we've done is we've looked at the North Carolina Standard Course of Study for math, and DPI has a lot of really fabulous resources. The North Carolina Tools for Teachers has lots of different modules. But really the teachers are using lots of multiple resources and really designing those lessons themselves.
Cool.
All right, any other questions?
Ms. Painter, what the EC?
Sherry, you have to talk to the microphone.
EC projections.
Okay, so we're projecting anywhere, I mean, you know, the state provides 12.5% as far as for funding for EC, but I mean, what we've seen at Voyager and what I've seen at other charter schools is often it ends up being more anywhere between 13 and 15%. So we're certainly planning on that. The first year we're looking at 2.5 EC teachers, but depending upon enrollment and what their IEP says they need, we may have to do some adjusting to have more.
And in the budget, the kindergarten assistants, you have them listed as part-time. What does that look like?
So, what I've done at Voyager with teacher assistants is that we've done them as part-time employees. So often it might be two, and I have to say we've had some really overqualified teacher assistants, but they job share. So perhaps maybe I work 2 days and another person works 3 days, and it allows for a lot of times maybe moms that maybe have an education degree, but they don't necessarily want to work full-time. So it gives them the option of doing a couple days, but also time with their children. And
But
so
in those kindergarten classes, they have a full-time assistant?
that they job share, yes. So they're not full-time, so it does also
No, but I
save
mean,
money.
The classroom itself has somebody
Yes, ma'am.
every day.
Yes, ma'am. And of course, it does save money in the budget too, because then you're not having to do, you know.
Expenses.
Yeah, yeah, so.
One last question for me. I know we're a responsive classroom school at my school.
Oh, what school?
What
school are you at?
Arapahoe Charter.
Oh, okay.
How do you plan to measure the students' civic engagement? Because I know that's a big piece of your mission and
Yes.
purpose.
So part of, within also project-based learning, is an empathy and a service component. And on the project rubrics are also elements of like empathy and volunteerism and service learning. So one way to measure would be, you know, their participation not only in in-school service learning, but also when we'd have outside of school service learning. But I will say one of the things that I also partner with Ashoka, which is one of the world's largest nonprofit for social entrepreneurism, and sat on their empathy initiative committee. And one of the things that is difficult to measure, how do you measure empathy and how do you measure if I'm an engaged citizen? So, I mean, some of those are also really, I guess, through observation, changes in attitudes and culture and things, so.
All right. They're doing the weighted lottery. Transportation budget looks solid. Yeah.
I move
feel good
we,
about the application.
yeah, I'm, even though I guess I'm kind of leading this, I move we move Alamance Community School onto ready to open status.
Second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, unanimous.
You didn't vote.
Well,
Congratulations. Very excited.
yep, thank you.
All right. Timing wise,
We're ahead.
We're ahead. Let's take a 10-minute break and let's take 15 minutes, and then let's just say at 11:05 we'll kick off with Danielle's presentation.
Joe didn't come in at all. He must be sick.
Well.